You can't fight what you don't recognize. The first step towards silencing the voices of doubt in your life is learning to identify where those voices come from. Because the truth is, the battle for victory doesn't begin on the battlefield. It begins in the mind. Long before you face an obstacle, you've already had 1,000 conversations in your head about whether you're capable, whether you're worthy, whether you're enough. Those conversations shape how you show up. They influence how you move, how you speak, and how you believe. Doubt doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't always come with flashing lights or a warning sign. Sometimes it sounds like reason, sometimes it hides behind logic. It whispers things like, maybe this isn't the right time, or you should wait until you're ready. But let me tell you something, those voices aren't always wisdom. Sometimes they're fear dressed up in common sense. They disguise themselves to keep you comfortable, to keep you quiet, to keep you from stepping into the very thing that would set you free. You've got to ask yourself, who's talking to me right now? Is it my faith or is it my fear? Is it my past trauma speaking or is it my future calling me forward? Most people never stop to question the voice in their head. They assume that every thought that passes through their mind belongs to them. But not every thought deserves ownership. Some of those thoughts were planted years ago by a teacher who doubted you, a parent who criticized you, a friend who betrayed you. You've carried those words for so long that you've begun to mistake them for your own. There comes a moment when you must confront the echo chamber in your own mind. You must separate truth from noise, the voice that tells you you're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy of love or success. That voice isn't you. It's an imposter, and every time you agree with it, you reinforce its authority. But the moment you challenge it, the moment you say, "That's not my truth," something powerful happens. The lie begins to lose its volume. You see, the mind has two chambers, one ruled by faith and one ruled by fear. Faith says, "I can." Fear says, "I can't." Faith says, "There's a way." Fear says, "There's no point." Both are waiting for your agreement. Whichever one you feed becomes your master. That's why self-awareness is not just a luxury, it's survival. You can't win a war you don't even know you're fighting. Every time you entertain a thought, you're either building a bridge toward your purpose or digging a grave for your potential. That's why you've got to become intentional about your mental diet. Stop feeding your mind with doubt and expect it to produce faith. Stop scrolling through comparison and expect confidence. You can't keep listening to voices that belittle you and expect to think like a victor. When you truly recognize the source of the noise, you stop giving it permission to lead you. You start filtering what enters your spirit. You begin to realize that every time you listen to the voice of fear, you're silencing the whisper of destiny. And destiny never shouts. It waits patiently, speaking softly beneath the chaos, hoping you'll turn down the volume of your insecurity long enough to hear it. There's a still, small voice inside of you that's been trying to break through all the static. It's not loud, but it's powerful. It's the voice that says you're built for more. It's the voice that says you can rise again. That's the voice you must learn to recognize, nurture, and follow. Because the real victory begins when you stop believing every thought that crosses your mind and start discerning which ones deserve your agreement. So the next time doubt speaks, don't argue with it, expose it. Trace it back to its source. Ask yourself, who told me that? And if the answer isn't truth, silence it. Because you cannot step into victory while you're still entertaining the voices that keep you bound. When you recognize the source of the noise, you reclaim control over the narrative of your life. And once you do that, you realize silence isn't weakness. Silence is strategy. Silencing doubt doesn't mean pretending fear doesn't exist. It means refusing to give fear the final word. You see, doubt is not just a feeling. It's a voice that questions your right to believe. It challenges your sense of worth, your sense of belonging, your ability to stand tall in moments of uncertainty. It tells you that confidence is for other people, not for you. And if you're not careful, you start to believe it. You start to wear humility like a disguise for insecurity, and you call hesitation wisdom, when really it's just fear trying to sound reasonable. But real confidence isn't loud or boastful. It's not arrogance dressed up as assurance. Real confidence is quiet power. It's the inner knowing that even if you don't have all the answers, you are still equipped to walk into the unknown. You silence doubt not by denying its existence, but by replacing it with a deeper conviction. Confidence is not the absence of doubt. It's the decision to move forward in spite of it. Think about how many opportunities have been lost because someone was waiting to feel ready, waiting for the fear to fade before taking the leap. But you'll never feel completely ready for what you were called to do. Destiny doesn't wait for you to be comfortable. It waits for you to be courageous. The voice of doubt says you might fail. The voice of faith says, even if I do, I'll learn something that will make me stronger. That shift in language, that small inner replacement, is what transforms hesitation into momentum. When you begin to align your thoughts with purpose, something inside you starts to change. You stop looking at your insecurities as proof that you're not enough, and you start seeing them as invitations to grow. Confidence, in its truest form, is a byproduct of alignment. When your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions are synchronized with your purpose, doubt begins to lose its power. Because now, your confidence isn't built on external validation. It's built on internal truth. Most people think confidence is about having evidence of success. They think they'll believe in themselves after they achieve something, but that's backward. Confidence is what produces success, not what follows it. You have to speak victory before you see it. You have to affirm your potential when everything around you contradicts it. Every word you speak over yourself is either reinforcing your doubt or cultivating your destiny. The mouth and the mind are partners in power. What one declares, the other begins to believe. That's why your language matters. When you say, I'm not sure I can, your mind searches for evidence to confirm that. But when you say, I'm built for this, your mind begins to align with that declaration. You train your brain to look for reasons why you can, not excuses for why you can't. The more you affirm your capability, the more your spirit begins to agree with your potential. Words are not just sounds, they are seeds. And the seeds you plant in your inner garden determine the fruit you harvest in your outer life. So stop watering weeds with negative self-talk. Stop rehearsing failure before you've even begun. Replace every what if I fail with what if I fly. Every I'm not ready with I'm being prepared. Every I'm not enough with I'm becoming. Confidence is not a gift. It's a discipline. It's a practice of choosing faith over fear, truth over lies, and progress over perfection. You don't silence doubt by shouting it down. You silence it by speaking life louder. When you wake up in the morning, speak to your reflection as if it already carries the victory you're seeking. Because, in a way, it does. The battle is already being won the moment you choose to believe differently. You may not control every voice that tries to speak to you, but you control which voice gets to stay. And once you replace doubt with confidence, once you stop asking permission to be great, you'll realize that faith was waiting for you all along, ready to guide you to victory. Because the truth is, doubt questions your destiny, but confidence confirms it. You can't hear destiny when your mind is cluttered with noise. Most people think they need more information, more motivation, more validation. But what they really need is stillness. Because sometimes the reason you can't hear the direction for your next move is that you're too busy reacting to every sound around you. You've filled your life with so many opinions, distractions, and comparisons that you've lost touch with your own voice. You can't discern truth when your spirit is drowning in noise. Stillness is not laziness, it's not passivity, it's not doing nothing. It's doing the inner work that allows clarity to emerge. It's the discipline of silence that trains you to hear the whisper beneath the chaos. When everything in life feels loud and uncertain, stillness becomes your weapon. It allows you to separate urgency from importance, reaction from response, emotion from wisdom. You see, victory doesn't always come from moving faster. Sometimes it comes from moving smarter. And you can't move smart if you can't hear yourself think. The most powerful people you'll ever meet are not the ones who talk the loudest, they are the ones who have learned to be still. They've mastered the art of listening to what's happening within. They've realized that clarity isn't something you chase. It's something you create space for. And that space is sacred, because when you find it, you stop being driven by pressure and start being guided by purpose. Your mind is like a room, and every thought, every worry, every distraction is a piece of furniture taking up space. If you don't declutter it, you'll never have room for new ideas or inspiration. That's why moments of stillness are so essential. They're not empty, they're fertile. That's where your next level is conceived. That's where vision is refined. But too often, people run from silence because it exposes them. When the noise fades, they're forced to confront the questions they've been avoiding. What do I really want? What am I afraid of? What have I been pretending not to know? Stillness requires courage because it reveals truth. And truth can be uncomfortable. It forces you to acknowledge that some of the noise in your life isn't coming from outside. It's coming from within. It's your anxiety, your guilt, your self-doubt. It's the inner critic that keeps narrating failure before it even happens. When you finally sit still long enough, you can begin to trace that noise to its root, and once you recognize it, you can begin to release it. That's why stillness isn't weakness. It's mastery. It's not the absence of motion. It's the presence of direction. It's the moment when you stop running from your own reflection and start aligning with it. It's where strength is born, not through resistance, but through awareness. When your mind is still, you stop reacting to life and start responding with intention. You become proactive instead of reactive. You become a creator instead of a survivor. The world is constantly demanding your attention, notifications, opinions, comparisons, deadlines. But if you don't take time to quiet your mind, you'll live a life driven by noise instead of purpose. There's a reason why some of the greatest breakthroughs come not in chaos but in calm. Clarity needs silence to take shape. When you cultivate inner stillness, you begin to hear direction where others hear confusion. You begin to see patterns where others see problems. So take time to withdraw, not because you're giving up, but because you're tuning in. Go where your spirit can breathe again. Learn to rest without guilt. Learn to pause without apology. The noise will always be there, but peace is something you have to fight for. When you train your mind for stillness, you discover that the quietest moments are often the most powerful. Because in the silence, you don't just hear your thoughts, you hear your strength. And that voice, once clear and steady, will always lead you toward victory. Because the greatest battles are not won by those who shout the loudest, but by those who have learned to be still long enough to listen. You cannot silence the voices of doubt if you're surrounded by people who keep feeding them. It's one thing to fight the noise in your own head, but it's another battle entirely when the noise comes dressed as friendship, love, or loyalty. Sometimes the loudest voice of doubt doesn't come from within. It comes from those around you who don't see what you carry, who can't handle your growth, or who've grown comfortable with your smallness. You've got to understand that not everyone is equipped to walk with you into the next season of your life. Some people were meant to witness your beginning, but not your becoming. Every voice that speaks into your life is planting something, either seeds of faith or seeds of fear. And the harvest you see tomorrow depends on the words you're allowing to take root today. When you're constantly surrounded by negativity, it begins to shape your reality. You start to absorb the atmosphere of limitation until you mistake it for truth. That's why you must be intentional about your environment. Your circle isn't just a social group. It's a spiritual ecosystem. It determines what grows in you. You cannot expect to rise while being anchored by people who are comfortable crawling. The company you keep can either be your cage or your catalyst. Pay attention to the patterns. Do the people around you celebrate your growth, or do they shrink when you shine? Do they challenge you to rise, or do they remind you of who you used to be? Some relationships are rooted in history, not destiny. Just because someone was part of your past doesn't mean they deserve access to your future. It takes courage to evaluate your circle, because it often means admitting that some of the people you love are contributing to the very doubt you're trying to silence. You can't pour faith into yourself while others keep refilling your cup with fear. And sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is step back, not in arrogance, but in protection of your purpose. Distance doesn't mean disconnection. It means discernment. You're not rejecting people. You're respecting your peace. When you begin to surround yourself with voices that build instead of break, your mindset starts to shift. You start hearing conversations that remind you of who you are and what you're capable of. You start realizing that encouragement isn't flattery, it's fuel. And sometimes all it takes is one voice speaking life into you to drown out the 1,000 that spoke doubt. You've got to find people who can see beyond your current circumstance and speak to your potential. People who won't just comfort you in the pit, but will remind you that you were made for the palace. People who call out the strength in you when you've forgotten it yourself. That kind of environment doesn't just inspire, it transforms. Because when you're surrounded by faith, it becomes easier to believe again. But let me tell you, being selective about your circle isn't about ego, it's about energy. You are too valuable to keep investing in conversations that drain you. Protect your focus like it's sacred, because it is. Every time you allow someone to speak into your spirit, you are giving them a piece of your mental real estate. And you've got to ask yourself, are they building something with it, or breaking something down? Life has a way of revealing who's really for you when you start walking toward purpose. The ones who belong will push you forward, not pull you back. The ones who don't will fall away naturally, not because you rejected them, but because your vibration changed. Growth has a frequency, and not everyone can tune into it. So choose wisely. Surround yourself with those who see your vision even when it's still invisible. Those who pray for you in private and cheer for you in public. Those who remind you that silence isn't emptiness, it's preparation. Because when your circle is strong, your spirit stays steady. And remember this, you don't need a crowd to confirm your calling. Just a few voices of faith that echo louder than the noise of doubt. Pain has a purpose, even when it doesn't make sense. Every disappointment, every delay, every closed door, none of it is wasted. Life has a strange way of teaching us through discomfort. The very things we try to avoid often carry the wisdom we need the most. The problem is, we're so busy running from the pain that we miss the preparation hidden inside it. We pray for victory, but we resist the training that produces it. We want the reward without the refinement. But growth doesn't come from what feels good. It comes from what challenges you to evolve. You see, doubt often grows strongest in seasons of pain. When life hurts, when prayers seem unanswered, when the dream feels distant, that's when the voice of doubt tries to convince you that you've been forgotten, that your effort is wasted, that nothing is working. But what if the very struggle that's frustrating you is shaping you? What if what you call a setback is actually strategy? Sometimes God, or life itself, will hide you in difficulty not to punish you, but to prepare you. Because purpose without preparation is a burden, not a blessing. Every great victory requires a breaking. Just like a seed must split open before it grows, your potential must be stretched before it manifests. Pain is not proof of abandonment, it's evidence that transformation is in progress. And the deeper the pain, the greater the capacity being built inside you. You cannot carry the weight of your next level with the strength of your last one. That's why life keeps testing you. It's not trying to destroy you, it's trying to develop you. When you start to view pain through that lens, your entire mindset shifts. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? You begin to realize that suffering isn't always punishment, it's preparation. And every trial, every rejection, every loss becomes a classroom. Pain teaches endurance, humility, patience, and perspective, the very qualities that sustain victory once it arrives. Because success without character collapses. Favor without foundation fails. There's something powerful that happens when you stop running from discomfort and start learning from it. You begin to see your scars differently. You stop hiding them in shame and start wearing them as symbols of survival. Every scar is a story, a reminder that you've already overcome what once tried to break you. It's proof that you can endure, that you can heal, that you can rise again. Those scars are not signs of weakness. They're receipts of your strength. And here's the paradox: pain doesn't just test your resilience, it also reveals your faith. Because it's easy to believe when everything is going right. It's easy to smile when the path is smooth. But real faith is forged in the fire. It's proven in the dark when nothing seems to make sense. That's when you decide whether you'll trust your circumstances or trust your purpose. Pain invites you to decide what kind of person you want to become: bitter or better, broken or built, wounded or wise. So the next time you face disappointment, don't despise it, study it, ask, what muscle is this building in me? Because every challenge carries a lesson, and every lesson is a step toward victory. Pain trains your spirit the way resistance trains your body. It strengthens what would otherwise stay weak. The moments that broke you are the same moments that built you. When you stop seeing pain as punishment and start seeing it as preparation, you reclaim your power. You stop feeling like a victim of life and start realizing you're being equipped for something greater. The process may hurt, but the pain is proof that you're progressing. So hold your head up even when the tears fall. Keep walking, even when the road feels long. Because one day you'll look back and realize that what felt like breaking was actually building. Pain isn't the enemy of your victory, it's the architect of it. Victory begins long before you ever see it. It starts in your language, in the quiet corners of your mind where belief takes root. The way you speak about your life reveals what you expect from it. If your words are filled with hesitation, your reality will mirror your doubt. But when your speech is anchored in faith, your future starts to rearrange itself to match your declaration. You don't speak from what you see, you speak toward what you believe. Because every word you release is a signal to your destiny, a declaration that either builds the path forward or blocks it. So many people spend their lives reacting to their circumstances, letting their vocabulary reflect their struggle instead of their strength. They say, "I'm tired, I'm stuck, I can't catch a break." But words like that carry energy. They affirm defeat before the battle has even begun. You have to be careful what you confess in moments of frustration, because your mouth can manifest what your fear imagines. The universe, the divine, the mind itself, whatever language you use for it, responds to vibration. If you keep releasing defeat into the atmosphere, you'll start to experience it in your life. But here's the power in all of this. You can reprogram your environment by reprogramming your words. When you start saying, "I am capable, I am resilient, I am built for this," you begin to shift not just your mood, but your mindset. You silence doubt by giving faith something to echo. You replace complaint with conviction, fear with affirmation. This isn't just positive thinking. It's psychological warfare. You are retraining your subconscious mind to follow your conscious declaration. And sometimes you've got to declare victory while you're still standing in the ashes. You've got to say, "I will rise," even when you haven't yet found your footing. That's what faith looks like. It's speaking life into what hasn't yet lived. It's seeing the invisible and calling it inevitable. The power of declaration is that it changes your posture. When you speak victory, your shoulders lift, your pace steadies, and your decisions begin to align with your words. You start to carry yourself like someone who expects breakthrough, not someone waiting for permission to believe again. The truth is, the external world often mirrors your internal dialogue. You can't live a victorious life with a defeated tongue. You can't expect progress while your mouth is preaching paralysis. Every time you speak faith, you're reinforcing the blueprint of victory inside you. You're telling the universe and yourself, "I'm preparing for what's already mine," and preparation is the evidence of belief. When you start declaring victory, your behavior begins to catch up with your expectation. You move differently. You think strategically. You stop entertaining distractions because you understand that your words have already set something in motion. It's not arrogance to speak boldly about your destiny. It's alignment. The world has taught us to downplay our dreams so we don't seem too confident, too ambitious, too hopeful. But humility doesn't mean silencing your potential. It means honoring it by walking in it with grace. You can be humble and still speak powerfully. You can be grateful and still expect more. Victory is not pride, it's perspective. And I want you to understand this. The most dangerous silence isn't the one outside, it's the silence within you when you stop speaking faith. When you stop declaring possibility, when you let the voice of doubt have the last word. Every morning you have a choice. to let your circumstances dictate your confession, or to let your confession dictate your circumstances. And whichever you choose becomes your reality. So open your mouth and declare what you believe, not what you fear. Speak to your dreams as if they're already on their way. Tell your obstacles they're temporary. Tell your pain it's not permanent. Because when your words align with your faith, victory becomes inevitable. The battle is not always won by the strongest body, but by the strongest declaration. So speak it until you see it, believe it until you become it, and remember, silence the voice of doubt and let your faith be the loudest sound in the room.